Hey Richard, how are you? Thanks, mate. Always good to get that first comment, knowing that we're live. Sometimes this stuff doesn't work, so it's always great to get a first comment. Make sure that we're aware that it's all working. What are we doing here, mate? Let's move this down a little bit. All right, beautiful. All right. Just making sure. Go to live dashboard. No, don't want to do that. Got a license for them things, I'd say. No, mate. Just I think I still got a bit of pre-workout in me. So yeah, I'm pretty calm though. So I've got a bit of pre-workout in me. So yeah, if the guns are looking big, it's not my fault. It's the pre-workout. It's certainly not me. It's just the pre-workout. It increases nitric oxide, and if you don't use it, because today was a pretty easy day in the gym, so you don't use it, then it just, the veins are popping out when they shouldn't be. All right, good evening, folks. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Chris Nitzo, Weather IQ's lead forecaster, and we've got a bit of stuff to talk about. We'll start with a nice, easy one, but pretty important one. Over in the NT, we've got a significant low-pressure system that's currently located very, very close to the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf, as you can see there. There's a bit of rotation. Now, that's pretty normal for them to get a weak low and lots of rain up there at the top end. It is the wet season. What isn't as normal is another bout of heavy rain that's coming down for the inland parts down here around Alice and Yulara and those sort of areas. Going to cop another battering. So the idea is that this low is going to move to the southwest over the next couple of days, go through the inland parts of WA and drive some very, very heavy rain down into the Ayers Rock area, and then out towards Alice. We can see some very heavy rain developing there on Monday. If we just take a look at the eastern parts of Australia here and just see how far south that rain will get, you can see there's a fair chunk of that rain gets straight over the top of South Australia as well. So that's some big follow-up rain for parts of South Australia that just copped a massive battering from the last lot. You can see there is some of that rain that extends down to Victoria from that too. So quite a significant event. So the low itself will have washed out, but the trough that the low washed out into spreads that rain over a very large area. So we're anticipating some very heavy falls of rain through central parts of Australia. Total accumulated precipitation there in excess of 100 millimetres for a large chunk of the desert. Remember, the desert only gets a couple of 100 millimetres a year, so that's like half a year's worth of rain for them. So you might scoff at that if you live in Tully, but different horses for courses there. All right, so 100 mils, 150 mils over such a large area of the desert, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. And that's happening all between now and Tuesday. So, and the peak time for that is going to be Sunday. We start to spread the rain southwards, and then Monday we spread it right out into South Australia. So Sunday, Monday are our two big days. And then Tuesday, we're starting to spread it eastwards towards the far western edge of Queensland. That's about where it dies. And then on Wednesday, we see a fining up process. Slow, but fining up process. All right, so that's our number one thing to talk about. That's happening. That's currently happening. And number two thing, which is the one that you all want to know about. Let's talk about it, eh? Coral Sea. Oh, just before we do, today we had a bit of rain. Let's have a quick look at that. So down around southeast Queensland, we had some localised falls. This is Weather Watch's radar-derived rainfall since 9 o'clock. You can see we've had some fairly localised, but falls in excess of 100 millimetres through parts of southeast Queensland, northeast New South Wales too. Let's not forget about them. Just east of Nimbin there, Byron Bay. That'll make the grass grow at Nimbin, if you know what I mean. And then some heavy rainfall around northeast New South Wales as well. And then going up a little bit further, we've also had some really good falls up around the Cairns district, where we've seen falls potentially up to around 50 plus millimetre range. And when we add the rainfall over the last 12 hours or so, we can see here that there's been some pretty significant falls through this region, falls in excess of 50 millimetres through a few parts. And there's further heavy rainfall occurring through that region at the moment. And if we just take a quick look at Queensland before we start getting into the nitty-gritty about the cyclone, just having a quick look here for Queensland, what can you expect over the next few days? Pretty stable conditions for most of you. So unless you're in the far north, so that's southeast Queensland stuff, that's going to start moving northwards quickly tonight and pushing into central Queensland tomorrow morning. Some heavy showers around the North Tropical Coast are still expected. We've still got a fair bit of storm and rain activity through the Gulf and through the Western Cape tomorrow. As we go through on Saturday night, you can see that shower activity, not quite as heavy as it was in southeast Queensland as it pushes up into the Capricornia. And by Sunday morning, it gets up to about Mackay. Still quite a few heavy showers around northeast Queensland's coastline. So this area here should do quite well rainfall-wise over the next few days. And then as we go through, we can see Sunday morning, that shower activity gets to the Whitsundays. Sunday afternoon gets through to the Townsville area. And then on Sunday night, Monday morning, it sort of perches itself through the Cassowary coast. So a bit of an enhancement of rainfall there as we go into Monday. And then that will clear up. And then from that point on, all eyes, my friends, all eyes are on the Coral Sea. We won't get any significant weather across the state for the rest of the week. Maybe on Thursday, Friday, we get a couple of storms down in southeast Queensland. But all eyes firmly on the Coral Sea from there. All right, so let's talk about it. Coral Sea. What's going on? Right, so right now, there's nothing much going on except for a lot of storms. When we looked at this picture 3 nights ago, there was just a couple of storms way out here in the eastern edge of the screen. Now, you can see there's a lot of storms going on, but there's no organisation of those storms. So they're just a big blobby area of convection. So for now, nothing's happening in the short term. All right? What we're going to start to see, though, is inside this big blobby area of convection, we're going to start to get an area of enhanced rotation that develops. Bureau of Meteorology are suggesting that that area of rotation will develop around there, around the southern edge of the Solomons. All right, so the expectation is that as this develops, because it's going to develop a little bit further north of where we were talking about 3 nights ago, we can reasonably safely rule out a direct push to the southeast. So that makes life a little bit more interesting if you're a Queenslander, because the system should adopt a westerly track over the first half of the week. So with Sunday, remember our first hurdle was Sunday night, Monday morning. There was an upper trough amplifying that if it captured the system, it would take it away before it even got into our region of the Coral Sea. That doesn't look likely anymore. That system's going to move to the west. That trough is going to miss it. It's going to move to the west. Now, the key is going to be how fast does it move to the west? And I'm going to talk you through all the technicalities here in the forecast update that we issued to the members. And that leads me to the plug. Our major sponsor there on the top left, Fair Income Builds, Townsville. We thank them for their sponsorship. And also we thank you folks who are subscribed to us at weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. A subscription to us costs $32.95 a year. Gives you access to all my forecasts just for that price, and then you get a bunch of extra stuff, including all the charts and stuff, for $69.95 a year. We thank you very much if you can support us. If you can't, that's fine. Just participate in these and let your mates know about these live updates, so there's no bullshit out there. And you can counteract the high-impact graphics and the high-impact bullshit with some real information. You're doing your part just by doing that. But if you can support us financially, that would be amazing, and we thank you very much to our thousands of members. Rightio, let's get into the video I issued just a little while ago to the members, and it's a replay of that video. It was about about half an hour old now. All right. G'day folks, welcome to the North Oz Tropics Watch, basically taken over by the discussion of the Coral Sea low, I think. Let's try and keep it as brief as possible because not much has changed over the last 24 hours compared to what it was 24 hours ago. We've got a low pressure area that's currently not visible, however a low pressure trough is visible. A low pressure system is going to form off that low pressure trough at some point over the weekend. that low pressure system is then going to push in a westerly direction. We expect the low to form too close to the Solomons for the first upper trough to grab it. So let's have a look at that first upper trough. And we can see here, the first upper trough is extending extending northwards through to about Vanuatu, New Caledonia. Now you'll notice there our system doesn't get caught. So what happens? Mid-level ridge builds in underneath it, very dry and stable conditions for Queenslanders. That means that mid-level ridge will extend northwards into the Coral Sea and grab the circulation and bring it westwards. Alright, so just when it looks like it's about to whack the coastline, suddenly something else happens. Let's have a look at what that something else is. On Thursday, we have an amplifying upper level trough across eastern Queensland. You can see that amplification occurring there, and you can see that by the time it amplifies into the northern Coral Sea, in this situation here, it's too late. The system has passed that point, and the mid-level ridge located in South Australia is going to hold the system on its westward track. Not all models agree on this part. This is the part where we create the disagreement. Some of the models have the system still out here. If that's the case, what will happen is it pushes like that and then out to the southeast or to the south-southeast. Okay? So this is the part we don't agree with, is how fast does the system move? Does it get past that point by the time the upper trough amplifies on Thursday night, Friday morning? Once that question's answered, well, we'll be able to answer that question well ahead of time, because we'll be able to figure out how fast the system is moving in its westerly track. Is the system going to move west? You better believe it is. All right, but is the system going to move west all the way to the coast? That's where the jury's out. So that's where we are at the moment. That upper level trough buggers off, and in behind it is a fairly significant upper level ridge that is perched over the top of Australia and will continue to take everything westwards. So if it hasn't moved southeastwards, it then becomes a threat not just for far north Queensland, it becomes a threat for the Northern Territory and potentially WA down the track. We continue to be at a stalemate at the moment with our numerical weather prediction models. Our physics-based models are telling us this system won't be moving west fast enough and will get captured by this upper trough, and away it goes to the southeast. And you can see that reflected here as we get to Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. Our upper trough is just starting to amplify, which will slow down our Coral Sea Cyclone. So as it moves west, it'll start to slow down as this weakness develops in the ridge. From here, the system will dip towards the south-southwest and then follow the upper trough down to the southeast. All right, so that's where we disagree, is the forward speed of the cyclone. So once we can figure out how fast it's going to move to the west, we can figure out if it poses a threat to the far north Queensland coast and the Cape coastline. And by association, if it poses a threat to them, we know that the mid-level ridge here is going to be firmly in place and it'll end up posing a threat to the Northern Territory as well. Now that we know the system's not going to get taken by the first upper trough out towards New Caledonia, we can also assume that our winds will increase significantly with gusts up around 35 to 40 knots across central and offshore North Queensland waters. So please be aware of that for boaties as we go into the latter parts of Wednesday through Thursday and of course through Friday and potentially, depending on the track of the system, Saturday. So just to summarise, our numerical weather prediction models, our physics-based models are telling us this thing is going to stay offshore. Our AI models are hell-bent on bringing this system onto the coast. So we have basically now a 50-50 split with a little bit more weighting on the physics-based models because we know them a little better. But overall, it's still very, very difficult. Still very difficult and still on a knife's edge. And if we do a quick comparison of our physics-based models, that's these ones here versus our AI models, which we'll do shortly, but you can see our physics-based models have the initial southwestward motion through to, I'll just bring this up so we can see the time frame. Right, so through to Tuesday the 17th of March, you can see the system is starting to track westwards. As we go into Wednesday the 18th of March, absolutely no doubt that the system is moving in a westerly direction at this point, right? So that's not the part we're disputing. That's not the part that's under any shadow of a doubt. The system is going to be moving west. Once it misses that first upper trough, there is nothing else to drive it except for a big strong ridge. Now, that takes us through to Wednesday. As we go to Thursday, we see the system continuing to track west. You can even see maybe a slight west-southwest shift, but generally west.
And you can see there are some models that get it fairly close to the coast already by Thursday and more likely by Friday. The ones that get it to the coast are the ones that obviously by that stage it becomes a moot point because it's past that little point of no return. Remember, right around Willis Island is about our point of southeasterly curvature or continued westerly motion. In this setup, we can see that the cyclone in the majority of model members has not passed that point by Friday morning and therefore never does pass that point. And you can see the system then ducks off to the southeast in the majority of numerical weather prediction models. You can see the system getting within 300 k's, or the remnants of the system getting within 300 k's if it tries to defy the upper trough and gets sheared away. So you can see there that little orange that starts to come onto the central and North Queensland coastline. Right, probability of this becoming a tropical cyclone increasing. It's getting up to about a 40 to 50% risk of becoming a tropical cyclone as it traverses west across the Coral Sea. And then the probability of a tropical cyclone impact on the coast never gets above about 10 to 20%. Okay, so just be aware that it's a 1 to 2 out of 10 chance that it impacts the coast as a cyclone. And more than likely what will be happening here is we see cyclonic winds, but we don't see that's that offshore gales that we're talking about, rather than the actual tropical cyclone intensity of the core coming onto the coastline. That appears to be an unlikely outcome. All right, so that's what our numerical weather prediction modelling is telling us. What is our AI modelling telling us? Something very different. Right, so our AI models want to drive the system westwards a little faster, and that becomes a problem for folks between around about Cape Tribulation and Lockhart River. A faster moving system means that the upper trough amplifying by Friday, right now, where the upper trough should be grabbing anything that's out here at this point and taking it away from the coast. But anything that's out here at this point, it's too late. Too late. It's already on the coast. It's already getting there. So that's our big question mark, isn't it? How fast is the system going to be moving towards the west? Because if that upper trough amplifies and that thing's already on the coast, well, the upper trough doesn't amplify through Queensland, it amplifies through the Coral Sea. So it only takes anything east of about Willis Island away with it. All right, so it doesn't take anything west of Willis Island away with it, and it's not going to drive the cyclone southwards through the through Queensland either. So don't think it's going to drive flooding rain down into southern and central Queensland. It's all going to be about how fast the cyclone moves in this next 4 or 5 days, as to 3 or 4 days, as to how close it gets by Friday. All right, and then once it does hit the coast, if it does hit the coast, once it does, you can see there's no sign of any slowing down of the system once it's over Queensland. It continues rapidly moving out towards the west and into the Northern Territory. And then we have to watch to see whether or not there's even a chance there that it redevelops off WA. So this could be a 3-stater if it moves fast to start with. All eyes are going to look at how fast does the system go. Now, where does the system cross the coast? More than likely between Cooktown and Lockhart River, and earliest sign of a coastal crossing is Thursday night. Latest sign of a coastal crossing is around about Saturday night. Of course, we know that as long as the system is west of Willis Island, that upper trough probably isn't going to grab it. So that's the key there for Friday. We need to make sure that it's west of Willis Island. If it's west of Willis Island, the upper trough can't get it. Okay, from there, we need to brace ourselves on the coast. We don't have very long to brace ourselves from there. But listen, we'll have a really good idea about whether or not this is coming onto the coast the moment it starts to accelerate. If it's moving at 10k an hour, we know no chance. But if it starts moving at 20, 25k an hour, yep, we're in for it. And we're in for it between Cooktown and Lockhart River at this stage. Hypothetically speaking, if the system doesn't come towards the coast, we then look for a brand new low pressure system located up here in the Arafura or the Torres Strait Islands. That'll be our next system that we'll be watching for, the development of something up here in the Arafura or the Torres Strait or the Gulf of Papua. Now, but that's on the proviso that this low doesn't hit the coastline. Now, as you can see there's a substantial amount of models that do hit the coastline. So if that happens, this won't happen. All right, we'll be following this low along to NT and potentially to WA. All right, that's where we are at the moment. No real advancement other than to say that we're getting more and more confident that it's not going to head out towards New Caledonia from the first trough. It might head out to New Caledonia from the second trough on Friday, but not this first one on Sunday night, Monday. So at this stage, it looks like we're going to get free of that and we're going to move west. How far west and how fast west is the question. Have a good day.
Alrighty, I hope that's answered some of the technicalities about why we're struggling with some of these predictions and why there's so many predictions when it comes to how far it moves westwards and how fast it moves westwards. And we can see that there is a sizable amount of computer modelling that does show it moving westwards far and fast enough to get to the coastline. At this stage, north of Cooktown seems to be the most likely, but we have got some crossings as far south as Cairns Cape Tribulation. So we do have some that extend that far to the south. The idea is the westerly motion looks pretty set for at least the period until Thursday, starting from Monday, and then until the period until Thursday. So it's got about 3 days where it's going to move steadily west. The question mark is going to be how fast is steadily west. Is steadily west 20 to 25 kilometres an hour, or is steadily west 10 to 15 kilometres an hour? That matters in the end, and it matters big time in the end. All right, let's have a look at what the effects would be, hypothetically speaking. Let's have a look at what the effects would be if a system was moving fast and getting to the coast versus a system that was moving slow and not getting to the coast. And we want to just compare when does the rain, when does the wind start, and just to get an understanding, a feel of the situation hypothetically if we move the system fast to the west. So this is a hypothetical situation or a modelled situation where the system is moving quickly to the west. And what we can see here is that sorry, I think I'm yelling into the mic. My apologies. Let me just take that a notch down. Sorry about that. I think sorry if I was yelling into the mic there, folks. I had to turn the mic volume up so you could hear the pre-recorded video. Right, let's get back to normal volume. Right, so what we can see here is a system that's moving to the west. Now, notice that most of the rain, as it moves to the west, is on its northern side, not on its southern side, not what we're traditionally used to in Queensland. So our low continues to deepen as it tracks westwards. Now, because it's tracking westwards fast enough, it's going to be west of Willis. So Willis Island is our cutoff, right? So if it's west of Willis Island by about Thursday night, we're a pretty good chance at seeing this on the coast. If it's not west of Willis Island by Thursday night, we're a pretty good chance of it stalling on Friday and then pulling down to the southeast away from the coast, right? So that's the important part of the forecast, if anything. If that's probably our most crucial part of the forecast, right? So we won't really know until we can figure out the forward speed. Once we figure out the forward speed, we'll know where the system's going to be by Friday, all right? And then, so we don't have to wait until Friday. We will probably have a pretty good idea well and truly before that, okay? Right, so going on. So the system, you can see once again, most of its heavy rain is on the northern side, but we are starting to see some showers by Thursday night on the North Tropical Coast in this hypothetical situation. Those showers will turn into some heavier rainfall because of the mountain ranges. The cyclone itself is still producing most of its rain on the northern side, but because we've got a southeasterly flow coming onto the coast and we've got really tall mountain ranges around the Daintree and the wet tropics, we would start to see some significant rainfall development on Friday morning. As we continue through Friday, we see the system come onto the coastline in this hypothetical situation, up around that area just north of Cooktown, just south of Lockhart River. So fairly sparsely populated area. But just remember that area of impact, depending on which model we're using and which simulation, goes as far south as some of the southern ones are around Cairns, some of the northern ones are around Bamaga, right? So that's a fairly large stretch of coastline that we still need to be aware of. But you can see here the heaviest rain just starting to concentrate a little bit closer to the centre. So up until then, a lot of our heaviest rain was displaced to the north of the centre. You'll notice here that as it gets closer to the coast, it just starts to tighten up, just starts to strengthen a bit. And so the heaviest rain is right next to the centre as it comes onto the coast. Now remember, could come onto the coast as far south as Cairns or more likely as far south as Cape Trib. and could come onto the coast as far north as Bamaga. So we're not guaranteed a impact just south of Lockhart River or Cowan like it is there, okay? You'll notice, though, quite a bit of rain anywhere north of Townsville. So anyone north of Townsville is getting quite a bit of rain because of the southeasterly flow in this type of situation. Then, as we talked about, there's a big mid-level ridge here which is going to drive the cyclone west. So it's not going to stuff around, it's not going to jasper at all right? So it's not going to be a jasper where it just sits in the Cape for 4 or 5 days. What may happen here is while it's having to think about things with this upper trough amplifying, it might actually slow down close to the coast up here. So it might do a little bit of a slowing down process here while it almost gets captured, and then continue on a westerly track. And once it starts to continue on that westerly track, it'll accelerate again through the Cape and be quite fast moving through the Gulf. And we can see it pushing into, potentially, the NT in this setup. You'll notice there for the Cairns district, you'll notice there's still significant rainfall after landfall. All right, so once this low gets on the coast, or cyclone gets on the coast, tracks westwards, we can see that there's a substantial amount of easterly flow through that north tropical coast. So these numbers here are going to ramp up pretty quickly around the NTC. And you can see there that our low or cyclone continues west into the NT in that situation. But that's just one simulation, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what the Western simulation looks like. So for those of you harbouring any fantasies of doom porn down around Townsville, Mackay, Rocky, Bundy, Gladstone, we're not seeing any evidence of that, okay? What we are seeing some evidence of is that the system starts to move southeast, dies, and then the low-level remnants might come back towards the coast. We're seeing some elements of that. That would not cause anything more than a shower or two, all right? We're not talking about a cyclone coming back. We're just talking about the idea of, and let me just show you what I mean here. You're always going to get that one person who's going to go, what about that one that hit Mackay? All right, so let's have a look at these ones down here. Right, so in the vast majority of the ones that hit further southwards, we're not talking about a cyclone crossing here. We're talking about a system that is weakening on approach to the coast and losing its head. Its head gets chopped off and its body continues moving westwards. All right, so that's usually what's happening in these ones out here. All right, so they're not of concern for us at this stage. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that if it does look more likely, but we wouldn't be expecting, and you can see there the experimental models on the same suit. So anything that hits down here is going to get its head chopped off. And by that, we mean it's going to get, there's a lot of vertical wind shear that would see the system die on approach to the coastline. So they're those ones in the south. But quite clearly, the evidence is quite obvious there that we're either going to get a coastal crossing north of Cairns, or we're going to get something that's going to come close to the coast and then bugger off to the southeast with that next upper trough. All right, so that's where we are. And the other scenario, the main scenario, is a lot less interesting. So let me give you an idea of what the other scenario is, which is the one that the physics-based models are giving us. So everything's the same until we get to... So everything's the same here until we get to around about Thursday, where those showers are supposed to start, around Thursday night. You'll notice in this setup, the system is way further east. Oops, sorry. No, you don't. You can't see it. All right, let's try that again. So in this setup, what we've got here is a situation where the low is way further east. So you can see here that we're not getting any substantial rainfall whatsoever in this setup. Okay, in fact, what it's doing is it's driving quite dry and mostly fine weather. And this is where, by the way, those ones that come back onto the coast, this is where that happens, where we lose the top of the system and then the leftovers come towards the coast. And that the leftovers won't be that colourful like you see there. The leftovers will just be a couple of showers coming onto the coast as the remnants shift westwards. So it has a bit of a think about things there, and that's where some of the computer models bring it onto the coast in CQ as a weak trophy surface low. All right, so big difference in rainfall, isn't it? When we take a look at the total accumulated rainfall in the two scenarios, big stakes for North Queensland. All right, so this scenario where the system moves west and then southeast results in not much rain by, we'll take this out to end of next weekend. So that's the end of next weekend. You can see not much rain on the coast, few showers, And look, for North Queensland standards, 100 mils in the wet season, you wouldn't think twice about it. All right, but there's a very stark difference there between that and that. All right, so that would be the expectation if we had a system that crossed the coast up there, where we would see potential falls of 0.5 metre or so around that north tropical coast. Not because the cyclone's producing most of its rain there, but because the mountain ranges are doing a lot of lifting of some very moist air. But the cyclone itself producing falls in the 200 to 400 millimetre range around where it crosses. So there's, as I say, high stakes. And we're not too sure which one of these is going to come off. So we've got to keep options open, all right, at this stage. But for now, the population centres, at least, don't look like they're going to cop the worst of this, okay? All right, let's have a look at some questions. See if we've got some questions that we haven't answered. By the way, for those of you that have just joined us, we operate on a subscription service, folks. So if you can support us and would like to support us and have the financial means to, there's weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. $32.95. Have a quick look at how many I did issue. I think it was about 10. I think 10 forecasts for the day. Normally it's about 5 or 6, but yeah. So there's 1, 2. You watch this one together. We watch this one together. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 forecasts for the day. Yeah, so that's a pretty busy wet season day. So yeah, a membership $32.95 a year gets you all my wet season forecasts, folks. All right, let's get stuck into some of your questions. The Sith, if you don't use it, you lose it, Nitso. Yeah, you do. Once you turn 40, yeah, definitely. Once you hit your 40s. I've turned 40 a couple of years ago. Hi, Chris. Currently pissing down at Caboolture. Yep, it should be, and that should be moving northwards, mate. So, Bron. So if we take a look at southeast Queensland. Yeah, so this is the last of it. So behind that, yeah, so that was the last of it you got there through Caboolture. So behind that now we'd expect to see a decrease in rainfall. So you can see there between 4 and 10 p.m. is when Caboolture gets its heaviest rain. And then after that, we should see that contract northwards. Now, that's not to say there mightn't be a little bit of shower activity continuing for southeast Queensland, but those heavy showers should progress northwards. Bron? Pinnacle loves the Nitso. Thanks, Lindsay. Nice consistent rain in Moorabool as you speak. It's delightful. Yeah, it's very nice. And should be more to come there for the Cairns district. So, and Yorkeys Knob too, Moira. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Stacey. Yeah, should be more to come for Cairns for the next couple of days. Still, it looks pretty showery tomorrow still, and looks pretty showery again on Sunday as that... it looks showery for Townsville on Sunday. Cairns might have to wait till Monday for that stuff to get to them. Hippie girl, hey Nitso. Hey Hippie, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Hey Nitso, what's the weather prediction for the Burdekin around Easter? Steve, forgive my ignorance. I have no idea when Easter is this year. Mate, you'll have to give me a date. All right, Ash, I've started boarding my windows up on the Gold Coast. Tried to get fuel for the Jennies, but there's no fuel. Toilet paper storage is still good from COVID. In all seriousness, this could be an interesting system. Waters are cooling down. The waters. So water temperatures, mate. I don't think they're cooling down as much as you think. Let's have a look at. I think we've got the GFS model runs a water temperature forecast for us. Let me see. Sea surface temps. Have we got them? Yeah. I don't think they're that cool, eh? I think they're well and truly capable of supporting cyclones, certainly in the east coast. 28, 29 degrees. 29, 30 up in the northern Coral Sea. Yeah, well and truly capable of supporting cyclones, mate. Certainly for the next couple of weeks, that's for sure. Where's our 26 degree cutoff? Yeah, so our 26 degree cutoff is around Brizzy. So we're capable of supporting a cyclone all the way down the coast, right? There's no problems there with water temperatures at this point in time. The anomalies, I think, have dropped. So they're not quite as warm as compared to climatology. But then water temperatures are peaking in February around here anyway. So, yeah, I don't see a problem with water temperatures being any sort of limiting factor in this cyclone, mate. KSCE8HX. Hey, hi, Mr. Nitzo. Oh, is this one of my ex-students, maybe? Hi, Mr. Nitzo. Hello, Case. Marie, thank you, Nitzo. I really appreciate the weather forecast. No worries. Thanks for joining us, Marie. I personally want to favour the numerical models rather than AI models. I am biased. T doesn't need rain again. We are seriously wearing floaties with a snorkel over here. Yeah. Look, depending on where you are, remember the rainfall from this one is probably only going to be north of Townsville. So if you're south of Townsville or if you're inland, probably not going to get much rain out of it, mate. So, yeah. And those areas up around Cairns, I don't think they've had a huge season in Cairns. I know Daintree unfortunately has. That's the problem though, right? If you bring it onto the coast around Cooktown or Cape Melville, that whole area between the Daintree and Tully are just going to get caned because they're going to be in that easterly flow and they're going to get that big orographic lift off those ranges. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem there for them because you can't just isolate Cairns for rainfall there. It's going to be the whole North Tropical Coast. Yeah, that's a problem. Steve, subscribe today because of this detail and because you just bloody deserve it for the knowledge sharing and effort. Oh, thanks, Steve. Thanks very much, mate. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard to our subscription. So hopefully you enjoy it. It gets a little bit quiet during the dry season. I've got to admit, I don't do too much during the dry season. You get a weather weekend forecast and you get a month ahead forecast every week as well. And if anything starts to happen, we get stuck into it again over the dry season. But generally the dry season is Nitzo's chill time. Jason, Townsville seems to be in the clear for now. Yeah, Jason, nothing much for Townsville there, mate. Doom porn, do not Google 27 minutes. G'day, Nitzo. G'day, Richard. Richard in FNQ. Rainy in Cairns. Yep. What's Innisfail got coming for us? Fair bit of shower activity, mate. Let's have a quick look at Innisfail. Right, so a fair bit of shower activity coming through for Innisfail over the course of the next couple of days. We've got a southeasterly coming up the coast. There's a chance of a very weak surface trough developing, so that's going to result in probably a little bit of enhancement of rainfall. If we just take a look quickly at the AI here. So we can see there a fair bit of shower activity this afternoon was around there. Tonight it drifts off to the north of you. And then tomorrow it sort of stays a little bit north, and then through the day we sort of develop a bit of shower activity back through Innisfail, and then fair bit of shower activity tomorrow night. So we're expecting a lot of rain around Innisfail tomorrow night. So a bit of a gap tonight into tomorrow, and then lots of rain coming back for Innisfail tomorrow night. And then as we go through, the expectation of the Townsville showers on Sunday will come through Innisfail Sunday night into Monday morning. You can see another little bout of showers coming through. And then for next week, look, I'm not going to say fine, but we're going to see a lot less shower activity next week. And, of course, depending on the cyclone about later in the week. Okay? That's for Best Times Reborn. Craig, hi mate, do you think the cyclone season will carry into late April this year? I'm not sure about late April, but there's certainly signs it'll carry into early April for sure. There's no sign of the monsoon coming back at this stage, but there's no sign that the cyclone potential is going to drop between now and early April. There's still a lot of cyclone signals out there. So I don't know about late April. It's a little bit too far away. Jesse, hey Nitzo from the Whitsundays. Any more showers for the Whitsundays? Not many. Sunday we're going to get a lot of showers through the Whitsundays. So Jesse, if you take a look at the Whitsundays. So there's a bit of a burst of showers coming up the coast. It's that same stuff that's going on in southeast Queensland. You just get a watered down version of them through the Whitsundays. So you can see there that burst comes through Mackay between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. on Sunday. and then goes through the Whitsundays, 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Sunday. And then still a few showers about through the rest of the day, but the heavier stuff pushes up to Townsville for the afternoon. And then beyond that, mate, I can't guarantee you fine weather because there's a really solid southeasterly, right? And the Whitsundays will always get a shower or two in a southeasterly. I don't care how dry it is. There's always the chance that one of the mountain ranges around, one of the hills in one of the islands just creates enough lift for an isolated shower. But that's all, mate. That's all I'd be expecting. And you can see through most of next week, that'll be all I'm expecting. And then, of course, we don't know. As we get to Thursday afternoon onwards next week, we don't know. It'll depend on the cyclone. Been raining on the Atherton tablelands for 1.5 hours now and more to come. Yep. Don't get too used to that though, Liz. There's probably not many opportunities left for the tablelands. We go back to Atherton again quickly and have a look at the type of rain that they're getting. So today was the last big day for the tablelands potentially. So, yeah, today we saw quite a bit of rainfall activity through the afternoon there. Tomorrow, it's going to be much more coastal. Yeah, you can see there tomorrow, no major repeat tomorrow on the tablelands. And then as we go through Sunday, we can see no major repeat on the tablelands. It becomes very, very coastal now, Liz. So enjoy it because there mightn't be too much to come now for quite some time. And if that cyclone doesn't hit the coast up north, there might not be much to come for the tablelands for a long, long time, okay? If the cyclone does hit up north, the tablelands will start seeing increasing rainfall from Friday. Stephen, Easter is the 4th of April. Yeah, that's just outside 2 weeks, mate. Maybe ask me that one next week. Yeah, it's a little bit too early to give you something for Easter at the moment, mate. It's just outside our 2-week window. Hey, mate, do you reckon Kununurra? Lakey. Let's have a quick look at Kununurra. All right. We'll go over to Wyndham. So, Lakey. Let's have a look. Have you guys sorted your radar out at Wyndham yet? I don't think you have. No, that's a shame because we're getting some really good storms there right over Kununurra right now. No radar coverage though. We can't see them outside of the satellite, of course. Right, so for Kununurra, there's going to be quite a bit of rain and storm activity tonight, as you can see, and that'll continue into tomorrow. And you'll notice there quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity, a bit hit and miss, but there's going to be quite a bit of it around tomorrow. As we move into Sunday, you can see it gets a little patchier, but there's still a fair bit of shower and storm activity around for Kununurra and the areas around you too. As we move beyond that time, there's no sign that there's no heavy ongoing rain, but there's certainly potential for showers and thunderstorms in every 24-hour period across Kununurra till at least mid next week. It does get a little bit more isolated towards the end of next week, and then what you're watching for in Kununurra is whether or not that Queensland thing's coming that way longer term. Total accumulated precip, you can see really good rainfall here for Kununurra and Wyndham and all these areas all the way down through to Halls Creek. I think we're seeing really good rain. Yeah. So this whole eastern Kimberley, northern interior, western parts of the territory, massive rainfall for you guys and girls. But yeah, Kununurra's right in the thick of that as well. But showers and thunderstorms, so heavier rainfall tonight, general heavy rainfall tonight because you're right on the lows. So that low, if we take a look where that low is versus Kununurra. So today, Lakey, that low is right on your doorstep right now. So that's where the low is. All right, so that's what's creating all the big storms there around Kununurra. And then you can see there through the night, that low's only moving really slow to the southwest, comes over the top of you overnight early in the morning, and then continues southwest. And from there, we maintain a northwesterly flow, and that's usually enough for showers and thunderstorms through the region. All right. Hi, Jason. We are in Bundaberg, flooded in. We hope to get out tomorrow. Hi, Nitso. What is the weather like in Bowen on the first week of April? Yeah, Val, that's still a little bit too far out, mate. We're sort of hands full at the moment, as they always are in the wet season. We don't like to look that far out, mate. I can't give you an idea of what the weather's going to be like. I dare say that No, I'm not. No, I'm not even going to say because I just don't know. I'd be guessing. It'd just be a blind guess. So no, we'll leave that one for another. We'll leave that for another week, mate. Thoughts on the cyclone hitting the coast when big tides happen? I don't think they're going to be an issue for Cairns. Maybe for the Cape. Yeah, on the Eastern Cape, especially for a place like Cooktown, I'd be slightly concerned. But listen, we're too far away from knowing if it's going to get to the coast to start speculating about storm tides just yet. But for Cairns, I can't imagine. I mean, there's going to be a fairly fresh to strong easterly on the south side, but I couldn't imagine that's going to really increase the tide by more than about 15 or 20 centimetres. Rick Card, what's interesting is we get flooded in every wet season in Koa, just west of Kuranda. Hasn't happened this wet. So not a strong season for FNQ. I wouldn't say it's not a strong season for FNQ, Rickard. What I would say to you is that it's been localised in FNQ. There's been a lot of rain on the Daintree this year, but it hasn't really been region-wide. So that's what I'd say in response to that. Tracy, would we get more rain out at Normanton? Let's have a quick look at Normanton, Tracy. Normanton, I think, was one of those areas that was a little bit too far east of the western stuff and a little bit too far south of the northern stuff. But don't quote me on it. Let me have a look first. Yeah, so today was the last big day for Normanton that was on my cards. Yeah, so you can see overnight tonight we're anticipating this stuff over here should be coming over the top of you at some stage tonight. So expect to see rain and storm activity over Normanton tonight, overnight. And then the expectation will be that we push that stuff out to the west a little bit more. The modelling tomorrow is showing us there's still a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity, although it does look a lot patchier tomorrow night and looks a lot more coastal tomorrow night as well. So it sort of starts, there's still a reasonable chance though, isn't there, for you to pick up a shower or storm there on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we expect everything to be further west. Monday, we expect everything to be further west and north. Tuesday, we expect everything further west and north. And whether or not you get rain at the back end of the week will be dependent on the way the cyclone moves. If it moves away from the coast, you won't get anything at the back end of the week into the weekend. You'll be dry for pretty much the whole week next week. All right, Tracy? But if obviously the cyclone does hit the coast, we'd start to see significant rainfall development probably from, for you guys, probably not until next weekend. Okay? Visiting Gladstone, caravanning back to Townsville over the next weeks. Can you dial in some good weather, says Bear. Yes, Bear. At this stage, well, at least from this one, Townsville wouldn't see much, I wouldn't imagine. Hey, Nitzo, in the off-season, can you give a good outlook on the winds for us boaties? Can't pick it these days. Hey, Wade, in the off-season, mate, no. In the off-season, I sort of, I go into hibernation a lot of the time. So in the off-season, we issue on Friday for the members, we issue a Queensland weather weekend. And that goes through the boating forecast, so swells, waves, winds, that sort of thing for Friday Arvo, Saturday, Sunday. And if it's a long weekend, we'd take that out to Monday. But ordinarily, I wouldn't be doing daily forecasts over the off season, mate. It's a pretty full on job for 6 months of the year, and that dry season period. That's Nitzo's time to go out, party, have fun. That's my weekend. My weekend is 4 to 5 months of dry season weather. So that's my weekend because I don't get weekends for 6 months of the year. But, mate, we do keep you in the loop during the dry season every Friday in the morning about your general boating conditions and weather conditions for the weekend. The other thing we do, obviously, if there is any major weather over the off-season, I'd come out of hibernation, kicking and screaming, and issue some video forecasts for those. But there's no regular video forecast like we do right now over the dry season. Jess, thanks for your info. Nitzo, beautiful steady rain in Cairns tonight. Good stuff, Jess. Glad you're enjoying it. A fair bit more to come for that area. In Forest Beach, keen for more rain through Ingham. May shoot Mel. Oh, for Inghamites. yeah, Ingham's going to be on the southern edge. So even if the cyclone hits the coast, Ingham's going to find itself on the southern edge of the heavier rainfall. So for Ingham, a lot of our heavier falls are now going to shift north of Ingham for the next couple of days. Then on Sunday Arvo, Ingham's going to get a bit of a touch-up from some of the shower activity that pushes up the coastline. So Ingham, Townsville region, Sunday Arvo into Sunday night. Then that's going to push north of Ingham, and then Ingham won't get any substantial rain. There'll still be a couple of showers, though, because it's a very strong southeaster all week. So there'll still be a couple of showers for Ingham. If we're going to get any heavy rain, we really need that cyclone to hit. We need it A to hit, but B to hit sort of Cooktown instead of Lockhart River. You can see heavy rainfall north of Ingham. Ingham's our cut-off really for the sort of boundary between really heavy rain and just a few showers. You can see Townsville's south of the cut-off, so Townsville's just a few showers. But for you, there might be a little period there of heavy rain if the cyclone gets to the coast. But it's a big if. If the cyclone stays out to sea, Ingham won't see good rain for a long, long time. Liz, thanks Nitzo, I appreciate it. No worries, Liz. Peter, good job, Nitzo, not talking shit and juggling people who think you're psychic. Yeah. Look, when people do ask me for those long range forecasts, it's just like I don't want to give a forecast that far out because A, I haven't even looked. B, I'm only giving you broad generalizations, and it's just one of those things where if you make a decision because I'm just talking bullshit where I haven't really studied it, I'd rather tell you nothing than A, lie to you, or B, spout some bullshit that I don't really know. Lee, Ingham rainfall from Monday to Wednesday. Have a PD. Yeah, we've just talked about it, Lee, as we talked about, mate. So rainfall for Monday to Wednesday for Ingham is 2/5 of bugger all. Rainfall Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night for Ingham, fair bit. But Monday to Wednesday, you're fine, mate. So you're all good to go there, Lee. No problems. Katharina, hey Nitzo, full member here. Thank you for your work. What are your thoughts on BOM's latest cyclone forecast? Hey Katharina, I haven't looked. What's the BOM been spouting about this one? Let me have a quick look. I'm not sure, mate. I don't usually consult the BOM because sometimes they just throw me off the scent. Like I've got my own forecast, and if I look at the BOM's forecast, sometimes I look at it and go, nah, don't agree with it. And then sometimes I just don't like it because it can sway my forecast. So I try and create my forecast before having a look at anything that they write. And a lot of the time I won't even look at what they write, but let's have a look. Yeah, so they've got it. So they've got basically what we're talking about, right? So they've got it where they've probably got it a little too far south, but they've got it basically from hitting the coast from around Cooktown. Yeah, they're probably a touch too far south for my liking, but you know, it makes sense. It makes sense where they've got it. And it makes sense that there's an error margin of about, 200, 400, 600, 800, 1200 Ks. Yeah, so it makes sense that there's an error margin of 1200 Ks because, as I said to you, that whole point here, where is the system on Thursday? If it's out here, it stays out here and it goes further out here. If it's in here, it comes in here and goes further in here, right? So that's why it makes sense that there's such an error margin out to the east and also all the way to the Gulf by the time we get to Friday night. They up the percentages as well. Yeah, 35. So I'd go as far as 50%. And what are they maxing out at? About 35%. Yeah, so I reckon there's a moderate to high chance of... I think we're all in agreement there. I just think that they've probably just put it a touch too far south down around Innisfail. Yeah. But overall, mate, it makes sense and it covers all the forecast tracks that we've already seen. So, yeah, it seems like it's a pretty fair forecast. Totally agree with their forecast. I would probably put, as I say, the southern part of that in Cairns, and I'd probably put the northern part closer to Bamaga. So I'd put it in there. All right. But other than that, yeah, I'd totally agree with the forecast there. Fee, Northern Rivers, New South Wales, got a good bit. Lots of localised flooding along coastal towns today. Yeah, they did. We go back to that stuff from Weather Watch, and we just go to radar and have a look at Grafton. They certainly did get a good touch up today. If we have a look at the rainfall there over the last 12 hours in northern New South Wales, have a look at those. Byron Bay, can you see that? 150 odd millimetres, 130 there, 110. There's some really good numbers there. And down around, we use the Marburg overlay. We go out to 256 and do the same here. Yeah, you can see those really good rainfall south of the border, wasn't it? And even north of the border, there were a couple that got up to 100-ish on just west of Brisbane, in the southwestern edge of Brisbane. So on that escarpment areas, which we're looking primo for some heavier rainfall today, that's where we got them. You'll notice there the coast didn't get too much there. Wade, sweet, I'm a member, so we'll check it out. Thanks for all the updates, much appreciated. No worries, Wade. Thanks for joining us, mate, and thanks for being a member. Thanks for your support. Looking forward to how the Daintree and Cooktown go next weekend. Yeah, you're right in the thick of things, Katharina. So yeah, I'd be paying a lot of attention to what's been going on out there, especially Monday, especially Tuesday. If it's moving at 20-25 k an hour come Tuesday, yeah, we need to be bracing for impact around there. All right. If it's moving at 10 k an hour, we can start to breathe some little sighs of relief. And then if it's moving, if it's still near stationary, well, then you can kiss it goodbye. But, mate, 20-25 k an hour is about where it needs to be moving at. If it's moving less than 20, we're looking okay. If it's moving 10 or less, we're looking good. It's not going to hit the coast. All right. But if it's moving around 15 to 20, we're still at a knife's edge. 20 plus, we're on the other side of the knife. We're on the sharp side of the knife. Okay, so really pay attention to how fast it's moving over the course of the week. Sue, Nitzo, which weather modelling is more accurate, ECMWF or GFS? Oh, that's an easy one, Sue. Oh, I like finishing off on an easy one. Sue, the ECMWF is much better. It's not even a contest. At this point in time, they are not a contest. The ECMWF is far better computer model than the GFS. I don't even think they're playing in the same weather forecasting league. One's in the NRL, one's in your local park footy. That's a good example of the two different models. And then if you take a look here at what's going on there. I was just going to see if we could bring up a scorecard just to show you how not good it is. But in saying that, the AI model of EC is better than the EC model. All right, so the EC model is way better than the GFS model, but the AI version of that is way better than the EC model. So yeah, we've got once again, there's different levels to this little game. So, so one's NRL and one's playing international footy. All right, so yeah, big bit of a difference. So let's have a look if we've got. I'm just trying to think how we've got the indices. So we can see based on so this is an example, and we'll use the tropics. Actually, no, we won't. Not for 500 hectopascals. We'll use southern extratropics. So basically, in this model, in this chart, what it shows us is the error margin and how the AI model compares with the best model we've got, the Euro model. And the lower the error, the lower the score, the better. It means the less error that there was. And so what we can see here is that over the first couple of days, the Euro model does pretty good and the AI model does pretty good, about the same. And then as we go beyond day 3, you can start to see the Euro model, the ECMWF model, starts to go a little bit pear-shaped. The AI model also goes a bit pear-shaped, but it goes a bit pear-shaped at a much slower rate. All right, so that accuracy of the AI model, looking at, in this particular case, the 500 hectopascal geopotential height, so looking at the upper levels of the atmosphere, the AI model is around about a day better than the Euro model once we get beyond about day 6 and 7. All right, so the forecast at day 7 is about as accurate as the forecast at day 6 on the Euro model. Forecast at day 8 is about as accurate as day 7. So we're getting better with the AI models, but we're not at a stage where we can be confident in any of the modelling. Like, we can't be confident in anything 7 days out. And that's why I can't tell you with confidence that this cyclone is going to hit the coast, but I also can't tell you that it's going to miss the coast with any confidence either. All right, and that's why we have images like this with 1,200 kilometres of error in it by day, whatever that is, 7. All right, because we can't be confident in our models 7 days out still. Even though they're getting better, we still can't be confident about it. What about adding in icon versus bomb access? Yeah, both of those are not very good models beyond day 2. So those two models hold their own in day 1 and day 1.5. And then after that, there's other models that become much better than them beyond about day 2. The bombs access model is a very good storm model. Icons model is a pretty good storm model. So if you're looking on storm days to try and figure out what's going on, yeah, those two models are pretty good for that. But you wouldn't be looking at them for more than 3 or 4 days out, mate. Matt, 0 rain in Brisbane today. Oh, yeah, you've been unlucky, but there's been plenty of rain around Brisbane today. In fact, as we just talked about, that southwestern edge of Brisbane copped near 100 millimetres. I wouldn't be saying 0 rain in Brisbane. Where was it? Let's go back to Brisbane. Mate, Brisbane copped a battering. So, parts of Brisbane copped a battering today. Yeah, and if we go right in there, you know, not far away from Brisbane, like the southwestern edge of Brisbane. What's that? Springfield, 93 millimetres. That's a lot of rain. Brisbane itself, sure, missed out. And so did most of the coast. The coast didn't get much. But the moment you headed just west of the coast, which is where it matters, right? That's where the rain matters because that feeds into river systems. Where if Brisbane gets rain or not, does it really matter in the concrete jungle? Probably not. But you want that rain falling into the river catchments, and you can see that quite a bit has fallen in the to the southwest and to the northwest of the city. So, yeah. The other week, we got about 100 millimetres first of the rain in about 12 months here in Nudgee, Brisbane. Yeah, Matt. It has, I mean, I guess it is. It's been patchy through parts, but you're never going to get a situation where everyone's, you know, it's very infrequent that we're going to get a situation where everyone gets rain at the same time. It tends to even itself out over time, but yeah, it's one of those seasons, mate. Some people have had way too much, some people have had way too little, but over the course of the season, most of us have picked up what we expect or better than what we expect for the season. Rick Gaffney. Hi, Nitzo. Looks like I am late joining the live stream. How's it looking for Innisfail? Yeah, we talked about Innisfail, Rick, and we talked about Innisfail getting a fair bit of shower activity today, a little bit more to the north tomorrow. Then it sets in again tomorrow night, and then we set in again Sunday night for heavy rain for Innisfail. So tomorrow night, Sunday night, are times for Innisfail, and then we don't know about the end of the week. That'll depend on the cyclone. But if the cyclone continues moving west, Innisfail will start getting heavy rain Thursday night again. If the cyclone doesn't move west, Innisfail won't get heavy rain again for a while. Ingham next weekend. Ross, that's too hard a question to ask, mate. Ingham for next weekend, we don't know. It'll depend on the cyclone. If the cyclone gets to the coast, Ingham next weekend will see significant rain on starting Friday, continuing Saturday, continuing Sunday. If the cyclone doesn't get to the coast, Ingham won't see more than a shower or two for the whole week, all right, and the whole weekend. So, yeah, it's a pretty big difference in the forecast for Ingham when we start looking that far out, mate. So next weekend, anywhere for next weekend is out of the question for us to look at because it's polar opposites in the northern parts of Queensland. Mackay this weekend, we're going to see Saturday night, Sunday morning. Susan, Mackay this weekend is going to see Saturday night, Sunday morning, a little wave of showers push through, and then just very, very isolated showers for the rest of the week. So nothing much there for Mackay. Even if the cyclone hits the coast, we're still not expecting a hell of a lot of rain for Mackay. And last question for the day, Stacey, just wondering what the Torres Straits will look like next Friday. Stacey, I can't tell you what it's going to look like next Friday because we don't know if that cyclone is going to hit the coast. So if we knew the cyclone was going to hit the coast, I'd give you a pretty confident answer. But because we have a huge variety of model solutions, so if you take a look here, next Thursday, we're anticipating very heavy rain so in this setup, where the cyclone's pushing towards the coast, we're going to see very heavy rain through the Torres Strait, right? Very heavy rain through the Torres Strait and through the and some really strong winds on that westerly flow on the north side of the cyclone, all right? But then if I show you this model, which keeps the cyclone offshore, you know, Torres Strait still probably going to see some shower activity and some possible heavy falls, particularly at night time, early in the morning, but nowhere near the level of intensity of winds that we would see. So while we can sort of say the Torres Strait's going to get quite a bit of rain over the next weekend, we can't really discuss, you know, particulars of that just yet. It's all dependent on the motion of the cyclone. All right, thanks very much for watching tonight, folks. Hopefully I've answered most of those questions. If you'd like to subscribe to us, you'd like to support us, iWall Basic is $32.95 a year. That gets you all my forecasts for the wet season. And iWall Pro is $69.95 a year. That gets you all my forecasts, plus all of our weather graphics and all of our computer models and cyclone charts and all sorts of things. So if you want to do a bit of your own forecasting as well, it's $69.95 a year. And we thank our major sponsor once again in the top left. Thanks for watching. Our next forecast update is going to be Monday night. Hopefully, we'll have a really good idea at the speed of motion Monday night, and we can start planning ahead to see whether or not we need to brace ourselves for impact Cairns northwards, or can we let this one go through to the keeper and down to the graveyard. Hopefully, Monday night, we'll have a pretty good idea. Thanks for watching tonight. Thanks for joining me.